So in Stacy's case, because we can't know the future, uncertainty is a natural feeling that accompanies a long-term relationship or making a long-term commitment, like a marriage. It's just unavoidable. And that's what is the clean pain. But to Stacy, she experiences this uncertainty and interprets it as bad. And she experiences doubt. It says to her, maybe I'm not making the right choice here. And then this fuels the secondary anxiety. So this constant evaluation of her feelings leads to increased anxiety of her own feelings and increased anxiety in her world if she's constantly monitoring for potential triggers or wanting to avoid something that might lead her to feel uncertain, which is not just external, internal too. She's constantly monitoring her own experience, her own feelings. How did I feel during that interaction? And no one feels strong feelings of love and excitement 100% of the time, right? And so in the absence of a feeling, she may interpret this as bad, and this increases anxiety, right? And then she engages in these mental compulsions, and the constant engagement in these mental behaviors can lead to a sense of disconnection, a disconnection from her life, a disconnection from her partner, which then, in fact, can lead to more feelings of doubt and uncertainty. And you can see how this becomes a vicious cycle. So we may map this out in therapy. I often map it out like concentric circles. So if, at the center here is the doubt and uncertainty that is a natural part of making a large decision, then what do you do in response to that? And what feelings come along with that? How do you respond to that? What additional feelings come along with that? And pretty soon we started with this, and what we end up with is a much bigger ball of pain and struggle. And further, if this paper, this whiteboard represents our life, how much room is left to engage in the things that really matter or that are meaningful when we're in this cycle over here? So while we don't have control over the clean pain, perhaps we do actually have control over the dirty pain. But what it requires is a willingness to be with the clean pain that comes along with living, or in this case, a willingness to be with feelings of uncertainty just as they are. Oftentimes, we'll externalize the OCD. So if you could take this from in here and it set it outside of you and it took on a physical form, what would it look like? What would it sound like? How big would it be? What color would it be? Is there a texture to it? Does it make sound? As much detail as possible. And what you're doing here is twofold. You're actually helping the client expose them to one of the things that they want to avoid through this process, and you're helping them look at it and develop a different relationship with it to get some distance from it. In Stacy's case, she labeled the OCD as runaway bride. So if you've seen the movie Runaway Bride, that's where she got that label. And immediately when she says this, there's some humor, there's some lightness, some levity. That's one way that you may know that diffusion has happened. There's a bit of a lightness or levity in that moment. And cool. If outside a session, Stacy can say, oh, there's the runaway bride, and have a little bit of that humor response, that's a new response to that thought. That's an incredibly new response to that thought. So you're building flexibility here. Moving to the processes in the center of the hexaflex, if you're familiar with the hexaflex, we have present moment awareness. So on one end of the continuum is present moment awareness and flexible attention. And on the other end of the continuum, a lack of present moment awareness or inflexible attention. So in Stacy's case, when she's constantly engaged in this mental behavior, this mental reality, if you will, she's not at all engaged with what is actually happening out here in real life. And much of the worries or the obsessions that she's experiencing either live in the past or in the future, as well as with the compulsive behaviors. So how did I feel when we did this activity yesterday? Did I feel loved? Did I feel joyous? Going back in time, living in the past. What if I married the wrong partner, and what does that mean? What will I do? That's a future-oriented place. But neither of them are right here in what's actually happening. So there's a number of ways that you can build present moment awareness, prompting Stacy to attend to her actual experience in the moment, in her body or externally, labeling her experience as what's going on internally versus externally. So internally, I'm having these doubting thoughts. Externally, I can see, the gray walls around me. I can see or feel my shirt against my skin, etc. Also, particularly with OCD, it in a lot of conditions, but really with OCD, I find these individuals to be extremely heady. So they're almost constantly living here and not very attuned to body. So I find the body to be a useful entry point to build present moment awareness. Can you feel the sensation of your feet on the ground? What does the uncertainty feel like in your body? What are the physiological sensations within?